I've got Fred Tam here today. He's actually my brother, and I wanted to have him here today because he is a real estate broker. So I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. You recently posted on your social media a video about people now needing generational wealth in order to buy real estate. Can you expand on that? I find that so interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, generational wealth, it gives people a head start. And I think really in this real estate economy right now, like where people are struggling to buy their first home, or if they're really just finding no way to do it, really it's the bank of mom and dad that's kind of helping out. I like to call it that because that's realistically what it is. Mom and dad have the money, right? Because they bought homes like maybe 40, 50, 60 years or whatever ago. And obviously over that time, when they bought their homes for like, I don't know, $20,000, right? Like obviously they've gone up in value. They're probably closer to like $1 million, or depending where they are, maybe even like $2 million or so. They're retired now. Do they need that money so much to the point where they have to keep it all for themselves? Probably not. As a parent, you probably understand too that like you want to help out your children. And so taking that equity out of your own property and passing it down to your kids just to give them a head start is probably what's going to set them apart from others, to give them that head start so they can buy their first property, so they can focus on, getting a job and, doing all the other things that where they don't have to worry about getting their first property anymore. Because if they have that taken out of the picture, let's call it their down payment of $200,000, who is saving, honestly, in these days, $200,000 in Toronto or in the GTA to buy their first home when the average price really is like going to be over $1 million. So when someone can get that wealth from their parents and buy their first home, then they have other things they can focus on.
Wow. Would you say these people that you're working with, are they couples in their 30s, so they're just getting started in life?
Even younger, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so I find a lot of people even like late 20s or mid 20s or so, they have the goal of buying their first home. They're already thinking about it, and which I think is fantastic, because the sooner you can do that, the sooner you are ahead. Because the later you wait, like it's getting way more expensive as time goes by. So so the age gap is probably, mid 20s, 30s.
So what if bank of mom and dad is not available?
That's a really hard situation then.
They're just SOL. No house for you.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. A lot of people aim to buy their first home. They're not looking at $1 million properties. When I say that, they're probably buying that with like a partner or whoever else, maybe like a business partner even. But for a single person who's looking in Toronto, again, like they're not looking at $1 million properties most likely. They're looking at maybe a $500,000 condo, which is still a little bit common in certain parts of the city. And for that, if they're looking to do 20%, then maybe they can achieve that down payment, but they can also have the option of doing like a 5% down payment, which they can put together as time goes by.
I actually work with a lot of clients whose one of their financial goals is to buy a home, and it's a struggle because they can't come up with the down payment. So I actually help with a lot of planning in terms of those short-term financial goals of saving money, putting in the proper environment, not a TFSA, not an RSP. And I think a lot of people in their 30s and 40s, their thinking is, I can use my TFSA money to put towards a down payment for a house. But I usually err on that and let them know that, a better place to save money for a short-term reason is in a high-interest savings account. And, a high-interest savings account at a bank versus a high-interest savings account with one of the companies I might work with, you're going to do a lot better. So at least they're earning money on their money while they're waiting for that time to buy their house. I've got a couple of clients now where money is going into a high-interest savings account just specifically for that reason, buying a house.
That's good. Yeah. And how much would you say people are putting into these accounts, and how long are they doing that for?
It really depends on the client. I have, for example, I know a couple clients. One is able to save $7,000 a month.
That's amazing.
Easily, while still paying down expenses. They're a married couple, and they both do quite well in their jobs. They make a good income, so they have a good household income, and they already own a property. So they're going to use that equity towards another down payment when they buy their second property. And then I have other clients who are single, and it's a struggle. They have money saved away. They did really, really well with savings, but they don't want to be house broke.
And I think one thing that makes that even harder is talking about house broke is that these high interest rates that we have right now, like I've talked to people that, they already had their first home and all that. And over the years, interest payments and mortgage payments have just been going up and up. And if they were paying like $2,000 before, they're now paying like $4,000 a month.
That's crazy.
Like, where is anyone getting an extra $2,000 a month just to pay down the mortgage? And on top of that, continue with their other expenses like, everything else like food and like if you have kids, like and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, cost of living has just gone up too much.
It's crazy. I don't think people can afford to make it on their own. They need to have a partner or roommates or some sort of partnership where they're able to share expenses.
Yeah. You want to hear something crazy, actually?
Yeah.
There was something that I didn't meet anyone, but like I read somewhere that people now who are like, starting to date and all that and find their partner in life, some of the questions that they ask are about their finances right off the bat. It's like, how much do you make? Like, how is this going to work if we combine our incomes and buy our first home? These are the things that people are talking about now when they're getting to the dating game, because they want to secure their futures as well.
It's actually smart.
I guess so.
I think people should
direct.
be asking questions like that. It's like an interview. How is it going to impact my future? Are you going to drown me or are you going to help me? But yeah, that's pretty interesting. I do have clients. I know people. As I work with them through their finances, it's especially when they own a home and if they were on a variable or if they were able to capitalize on those really low interest rates. Now they're coming close to the end of their term and it's time to renew. They're nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say for people like that?
They have options. I mean, right now we're looking at the Bank of Canada probably reducing the interest rates coming maybe June or July this year.
Okay.
And that's going to provide some relief to people that are either renewing or even getting their first mortgage, all depending on what their income and expenses are right now to this day, right?
Yeah.
But for people that are going to be renewing, yeah, obviously the panic is, what are my payments going to look like? Like how much more interest am I going to be paying? Some payments for some people have been so bad that they're only paying interest towards their mortgage now and not even the principal anymore. So it's like, what do you do? But the caveat is that like you can either do that and be happy with it, or you can sell your home and then what do you do?
Yeah.
Like you'd be downsizing, which I've seen already as well. People have these beautiful houses and they refinance to the point where, up to this day, they can't do it anymore and they're forced to sell, which has happened quite a bit over the last couple of years. But another option, probably one that some people are doing, is to re-amortize the property as well.
Yeah.
So that way, if they had like a 20-year amortization period on their mortgage, they can stretch that out to 30 years, let's say, and what that does it will decrease their payments on a monthly basis. So it's more manageable. They keep their house. Their payments are, maybe going to be filled with more interest, but again, they have their home still.
Are you finding that people are overextending what they can afford in order to buy a home? Because, we went through that whole period a year or two ago where people were buying houses, but they were buying them at $200,000 over asking sometimes.
Yeah, so over asking is a funny thing too, but definitely people are overpaying. And I've heard it before, like if you want to get into the real estate game, like get your first home or even your second one or third one, whatever it is, you kind of have to overpay sometimes because in the real estate economy, in the real estate game, you are competing against multiple buyers.
Yeah.
Like we're not in the market right now where you're going against competition where there's like 10 or 20 other people going against your offer. If you're putting an offer on $1 million property, let's say, you're going against maybe 6 or 7 right now. And let's say half of those are not even in contention. The other 3 might have a better price, maybe no conditions on financing. Maybe they're comfortable with that. But maybe they're not as well, but they just know that they have to cut out certain conditions and bring up the price just to compete. And it's perpetual because people wonder like, why do prices keep on going up? And it's sad to say that this is the reality, that prices will keep going up as people will continue to compete for these properties as well.
Where is it most expensive?
Toronto, probably, yeah.
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 I know quite a few people who are moving out of the Toronto area and moving closer to Hamilton, Niagara, Guelph, Waterloo, those areas. Are you helping a lot of clients in those areas?
The people that I'm working with who are moving out to like Hamilton or Bradford or anywhere else like that, they're usually first-time home buyers actually. So my team and I will help anywhere in the GTA for anyone that's looking to buy the first home or anything like that. But for anyone that's already established in Toronto, they're comfortable here. They're not looking to move out anywhere else because they've already established their base. But again, first-time home buyers, that's where the difficulty is.
Yeah. So from a real estate perspective, I know from a financial perspective, when I'm trying to help clients through these difficult times when things are expensive, interest rates are going up, last year paying $1,500 a month for their mortgage per month is now closer to $4,000. And a lot of times I'm helping them to find ways to make more money. So what is it for you on a real estate perspective? How are you helping your clients to find more money so they can buy a house?
Honestly, it's not really something that I do. I don't find ways for them to make more money. They do that themselves and they're pretty good at it. Like there's one client that I'm working with right now. She's been always switching jobs every 3, 4, 5 months. And she has a goal to buy her first home. And she can do it. She has well over $150,000 saved up right now. Mm-hmm. But the fact that she keeps on changing her job, whether it's because she wants more money or because she's unhappy, it creates a bit of a barrier for her to buy her first home. Because if you want to get a mortgage, you have to be consistent with your employment for at least 3 months or so. So she keeps on getting new jobs.
Like every 3 months?
Pretty much, yeah. She's done this so many times now, yeah.
Oh, well, at least she's got the money saved, so she's got
she's
some
ready to go. She
money
just needs
smarts.
to be happy.
Nice. So you mentioned your team. Who do you have behind you with helping your clients?
Yep. So we've got a couple of team members, and my partner and I we manage that. So we service mainly the Durham region and Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But we also help around York region, Peel region as well.
Yeah.
And Edward as well. Yeah.
So do you work with preferred mortgage brokers or anything like that?
There are some that we've worked with, obviously, and that our clients have worked with, and through word of mouth as well. That helps. So if we ever do need to pass on a contact to one of our clients, we have that ready for them.
Okay.
For someone who's looking to save for their first home, obviously saving's pretty difficult. What strategies, what investment tools are out there that you would recommend typically to your clients to get them to that point where they're saving to the day where they can actually buy their first home?
That's a pretty broad question because it differs from one client to the next, depending on their situation, depending on how much cash flow they have at the end of the month. But if we're going to make it a generic situation, one of the best places to save for a home is the first home savings account if they've never purchased a home before. And you can also use high interest savings accounts as well. So someone who already has a house, as I mentioned, they're using the high interest savings account because they've already purchased their first home. So rather than using an investment vehicle like an RSP or a TFSA, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people seem to have this mindset that that's where they can go for saving, but then pulling it out. So a lot of the education is, okay, so the TFSA is not for pulling out. It should stay there for at least 10 years. But if we're talking about saving for a house, first home savings account is the first place I would say because it's tax-free money. So it's kind of like an RRSP and a TFSA that got married. And you can take advantage of both of those tax advantages and put it towards buying your first house. Someone who's already purchased a house, I would say probably a first home savings account is likely the next best tool because there's no cap on how much you put in there and you're earning a good interest rate, providing it's not with a bank, and you're able to do it for a short period of time and not have it affecting any kind of contribution room like you would in an RSP or a TFSA.
Okay, so that's a first home savings account, but for someone that already has their first home,
yeah,
can they still use that as well?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that actually is, there are some pretty there's some barriers around that. Someone who's living with someone, but they're not on the mortgage, they can't take advantage of it either. So there's some pretty big regulations around it. So are you finding that a lot of your clients, are they in a position where they want to buy a house, but they don't quite have a down payment yet?
Yeah, it's quite the journey. So a lot of people I meet, it's very preliminary and early on in the stages of them buying their first home. And we'll have the conversation of like what they're looking for, where they want to be, what are the features of their house that they want. But one thing I always say is like, we can take a look at all that, but we have to assess what your finances look like, because I can show you all that stuff, but if your finances don't really paint the same picture, then we can't look at that right away then, right? So I always say like, are you in a position where you want to get pre-approved right now? What are your savings like? Do you have car debt, which can impact mortgage qualifications, right? So a lot of those questions come out just to assess what people are capable of doing when it comes to buying their first home.
Okay.
If someone has an option between like, let's say the top three, TFSAs, RRSPs, and the first home savings account, what are people usually going with there?
It depends. Is this to buy a house, or is this just for savings in general?
Let's say to buy their first home.
First home, then first home savings account. A lot of people know about it. It was very well advertised. So those who are buying their first home ever, last year people were given $8,000 of contribution room. And then when it rolled into the new year, 2024, it's another $8,000. So now they got $16,000. As for it continuing, I'm not sure. So how long have you been a broker for now? Or in real estate in general?
Yeah, I've probably been doing this for about 8 years now.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome, yeah. So obviously, like I told you the areas that I work in.
Yeah.
And, for some people, it's a little bit difficult because they have to drive around everywhere and, just meeting clients all the time. Depending on where you're working, it can be quite cumbersome, right? But because I know which areas that I've limited myself to, and then my team members can take care of the rest, then I know that I'm only servicing these areas, and that's always what's my responsibility, and I can take care of that. What about for you? Like, do you have to drive out to anywhere? Do you have to, like, how do you meet your clients?
I actually meet them all on Zoom or other virtual platforms.
That's so easy then.
It is so easy. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, since COVID, whenever that was, since COVID, I've seen 2 clients in person. And one was to hand off documents. And another one was a couple. One worked during the day, one's a nurse, and she worked night shift, so I met them where they were, just to make it easier. Other than that, it's all on Zoom.
I wonder if the day will ever come where I can do showings and everything through all virtual. I think we did that during the pandemic, actually, and that was not cool, so I wouldn't even want to see that happen.
How did that work for you over COVID when you were doing virtual showings? Did you have a lot of clients that purchased a home?
Through virtual showings? No. But
Really?
people were doing virtual showings, virtual open houses. So you'd literally be at your open house for 2 to 4 p.m. or 1 to 3 p.m., the 2-hour block, with your cell phone just on for a live stream for 2 hours. Oh. And people would pop in, pop off, and you would just talk to them and tell them what's up. Otherwise, no one was really allowed into the house for obvious reasons at that time. But no one was really making a decision based on just the virtual showing on its own.
Yeah.
So it was something to tie over what was going on globally for that time period, but as a benefit, I don't think it really added any value over that time period though.
Wow. That is crazy, because the virtual space has moved the financial industry, my business for sure, forward. And everything is just, who wants to be on the 401? I know I don't. If it involves me being on the road, I probably don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And neither do my clients. There was a time when I had to go to them, and I have clients all over the city, Durham, west, south, everywhere. And I was lucky if I saw 2 in a day because of all the travel. And now you just push a button and you're in every city that you need to be.
Yeah. I think the whole virtual space has helped our industry a little bit as well. because I remember the days when we would we would go to clients' houses, offer presentation night came, and you'd either be sitting outside or you'd have to do everything at the house because there was no DocuSign at that time. There was no electronic signatures. Everything had to be done in person. But now, it's like, hey, I need you to sign something. It's in your email. Flip it back to me, and we'll get this done.
Yeah.
And it's that much easier now.
I love it. Yeah, we had to get wet signatures as well. There was a time when everything was on triplicate, it was wet signature, and then it was snail mail. And yeah, we were living in black and white.
These are old times.
We were like back in the olden days, before COVID, we had to see people in person. And I do enjoy seeing people in person, but it's definitely a lot more efficient and easier for both parties to just be on a virtual call.
Yep.
And get those electronic signatures. We weren't compliant if it was an electronic signature before, and now it is.
Yeah, now it's the norm.
Now it's the standard.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal. So that was awesome. I'm so
fun.
glad we got to do this today.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think I've really actually ever talked to you about your business. You know, we're family, so we don't really talk about business, but I got to learn a lot from you today. But tell everyone where they can find you. You know, if you're servicing the Durham area, the Toronto area, whatever it is, where are people finding you?
So it's pretty easy. Just Google my name, Fred Tam. I'm like on every social media platform, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, like everywhere, right? So Facebook, all that good stuff. Just look up Fred Tam or Fred Tam Realtor, and you'll easily find me and can hit me up.
I would say look him up because his content is pretty useful. I learn a lot from it, which is what inspired this interview here today, so that we can share your information with everyone else.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.